Facebook folks in here. We can start the show. We got the spinning wheels going. All right. 1 and 2. All right, folks. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's a victory Monday. Broncos on a 2-game winning streak, sitting there at 7-5, and still sole owners of the 7th seed in the AFC West, beating the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a great day. Scott, I'm Nick Kendell, joined by Scott Kennedy as always. Happy Monday morning to you. Scott, how you doing? Ready for hour 2 of Talking Ball?
I am. It was predictable yesterday. It doesn't feel that way when you're in the moment. You've got like a vested interest in it, but it kind of played out exactly how we expected it to play out. The Broncos right now are just a better football team than the Raiders. I mean, look at the records. That's not a hot take. But where the Broncos are at this stage of their development onto their way of building with the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl team, being a Super Bowl team, is they got a quarterback who's playing mistake-free football who is immune to the rookie mistakes. Now, careful. I usually don't say that too loud. Yeah. He'll make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. But he's not making the rookie mistakes. He'll make a bad throw here and there. Every quarterback does. Mm-hmm. That's not a rookie out there playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos anymore. That is a good professional quarterback playing. And then you've got a kick-ass defense. Those two things travel. If I've got a quarterback not giving games away who can actually make plays now, he's actually a positive force of the offense as opposed to the first month of the season, which you expect from most rookies. And I've got a defense that just smothers people. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to beat bad teams even when I'm not playing my best. And that was the Denver Broncos yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think it was the best game from this Denver team. Obviously, Scott, you could really tell they were missing Zach Allen up front. That defensive line did not look the same. Minshew was getting the ball out, and the Raiders actually ran the ball decently efficiently. They didn't backbreak the Broncos or anything like that, but it just felt like there was we always talk about the straw that stirs the drink, right? And Allen is for sure that guy up front. Benito, good day. Haven't seen much of Cooper since he signed that contract. Hopefully we can get him making some more impact plays.
The one that got the pressure in on Minshew on that interception that batted his arm. Wasn't that Cooper coming off the left side?
That might have been Cooper. That could have been
a game
Cooper.
changer. I mean, that play, it's like he was quiet. And that's the thing about an edge. You know, it pisses offensive tackles off. You know, I remember I don't know, you're old enough. You're not old enough to remember, because I barely am, but you're historical enough to remember the New York Sack Exchange. Mark Gastineau, and I think it was Joe Klecko. But Gastineau would go into his big sack dance afterwards. It just pissed offensive linemen off. It's like, yeah, you finished with 17 sacks on the year. I kicked your ass for 59 minutes, and you get one sack and go into this big, epileptic seizure out there, and they just made him so mad. I'm like, that's the thing about the edge. I can be quiet, and Cooper makes one game-changing play, because as soon as that play happened, I text you, game over. That's it. This Raiders team is not mentally strong enough to overcome mistakes. Force one mistake, game over, and it was.
And I'll give the Raiders,
they played well. They're just not good enough to overcome those mistakes, even when they are mentally engaged.
And I'll give the Raiders some credit here. It's easy to do when you swept them for the season like the Broncos have, and 2 wins versus them. But we've seen teams before, Scott, that have quit, and the Raiders now are 2-9 and have lost 7 in a row or something this season. That wasn't a team that quit. That wasn't a defense that quit. You see the run defense from them. I think some physicality from them on both sides of the ball. That's a team that's still playing for each other and playing for the coach. Now they're just
3 things on that, because you just mentioned one. They're playing for the coach. They do appreciate their coach. That's 1. 2, they're playing at home. That helps, because they quit in Denver. they quit in Denver. 2, playing at home helps. And 3, they were given an uber aggressive style to play that engages the teams when they're like, go get them, attack. That engages the defense. So that is an inspirational, given free reign. Like, listen, don't worry if they get behind you. It's okay. Let's go out and have fun. What do we have to lose? So absolute credit to the Raiders. Again, they didn't quit like they did in Denver, but they're not good enough to overcome mistakes either.
No, they're not. Not a mistake. Hopefully, $20 coming in from Perry West. Says, good morning, guys. All wins against the Raiders are beautiful wins. Perfect season against them. The Broncos are growing up. Yeah, this was a game that Denver did not play the best. They went into halftime down 13-9, and I felt like this was a game that on offense, not much was going right besides Bo Nix, and in the second half, Bo Nix to Cortland Sutton especially. But the pass protection was okay in this one, but it was constantly penalties, unforced errors early on, and you had absolutely nothing from the run game, Scott. So credit to Bo Nix, even though in that first half wasn't really scoring points. Denver with 3 field goals. He was converting on 3rd and long, 1st and 20 constantly. I felt like there was a few times where if this was early season Bo Nix or Broncos quarterbacks of the past, it'd have been 3 and out. You punt the ball and the other team has the ball on the 50. I mean, at that point, you're in trouble in the NFL if you're giving the opponent the ball that consistently. Bo Nix was getting the Broncos out of bad territory, converting a few first, even though it's not points, Scott, converting a few first down, flipping the field position and giving their defense a chance. And that's the game within the game, the battle of attrition up front. So right. I think this wasn't his best game by far, but like Bo Nix, like you mentioned it, this is a professional freaking quarterback playing without the complement in this game of a run defense. Now, granted, that Raiders secondary is horrific, and they kind of played, Scott, how you want your Falcons defense to play up front, because they're outmanned for sure, but they were aggressive up front, left their secondary vulnerable, and we saw that in this game. But I just really wanted to take a second. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but this was not the most impressive game for Bo Nix, but like a damn good game because it was on his shoulders for this offense to complete drives. I mean, it was.
Yeah, and again, the hidden yardage is avoiding the 3 and outs and flipping the field. And then if you can get to your own 40, Riley Dixon has been amazing of his placement kicks. I'm not, with Riley Dixon, I don't really even care what his net is, what his gross is, because he's out there with a sand wedge, and it's his ability to pin guys inside the 10 has been as good as I don't pay attention to it as much, honestly. But I don't remember it being this good. And when you said unforced errors, I'm going to push back on that just a little bit because they faced more pressure. The Broncos faced more pressure on the first drive than they did all last game. And part of it is I have to adjust now to the speed of what's coming at me. And who was the biggest goat, in a bad way of the first half for the Denver Broncos on offense?
Mike McGlinchey.
Okay. Mike McGlinchey, a couple of holds, a false start. Well, he's got Max Crosby lined up against for him. Those are forced errors, and then adjust. And then after that first quarter, once you adjust to the speed of the game and what they're doing, then it was quiet the rest of the way. I mean, Max Crosby still got his, but McGlinchey wasn't having those penalties. I mean, 3 penalties in 2 drives? It's like, come on, Mike, but then you're like, oh yeah, you had to face the Falcons last week. This is a different ball game. So they made adjustments and they caught up to the speed of the game, because it's like walking in. If you live in the South or anytime you're in your garage and you just came home, you parked a couple cars in, you go out there, and it's about 140 degrees in the garage, and you come back in your house and it feels like an ice box. It's just relative until you get used to it. And that's what McGlinchey had to do, because it was such a Max Crosby. They could have played a 1-man front and gotten more pressure on Nix than they did the week before.
Yeah, Falcons are extremely inept there, and I thought Bo did a pretty good job. Now, again, not a perfect game. There's a few times where didn't set his feet. There was that one to Franklin that I'll have to check out the all-22. I thought it could have been a touchdown with a better throw, but he protected the ball for the most part, and again, he hit some really high leverage throws without the threat of a rushing attack. I think I saw, was it close to the end of the game, Scott, they had the Broncos average 3rd down distance to go, and I think it was like 8.4, 8.7. That is not a winning number. So the Broncos still score 29 points. Now, granted, haven't even talked about him yet. We got to give a shout out to the real one, Will Lutz. 15 points in this one, 250-plus yarders, I believe, as well. So Lutz, being clutch, missing one of those completely could change the outcome of the game. So he's been great. 2 misses on the season, I believe. Maybe 3. He might have missed one in the Jets game. And I know he had the block kick as well, but he's been awesome. And this was another great game from Will Lutz. But also, Great chat this morning. Mark Schrader coming in $10 saying, good morning, Nick and Scott, with the coffee mugs. Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. We also got another $20 one coming in here from the Boogmeister saying, let's go. Good morning, big dogs. Big dogs. Hell, man, you're going to get me all riled up. It felt so good last night looking at the screen when the playoff picture came up and the Broncos were right there. Couldn't stop smiling. Hope everyone has a great day. MHH all day. Thank you so much, Boogmeister, Mark Schrader, and Perry West, who have come in so far with the super chats.
And Boogmeister, thank you. They're not just there. They're actually like distancing themselves a little bit. You know, again, the Colts aren't really a playoff team. I think the Broncos are considerably better than the Colts right now, considerably. Mm-hmm. The Bengals' schedule has been brutal, and that might take them out.
They've lost like every coin flip game too. They're like 1-6 in one score games, which is
it's just that. So
not your year.
They're missing that this year. Their schedule's tough, and then they're missing that, and then you watch out for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins are the ones.
Watch out for the Dolphins. The Dolphins now. Someone's going to come out of the pack, but I don't feel like the Colts are a threat for the 7 spot, and you've got a chance to take care of business against the Bengals yourself.
We do, luckily, at Broncos country. I know it's not the most magnificent slate of Thanksgiving games, but I think it's Dolphins at Packers, the nightcap Thursday.
Yeah, that became a much better game, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that is a really interesting one for sure. So we'll see what happens in that one. But if the Dolphins lose that one, you're talking about Denver with a chance to get a 3-game lead with 4 weeks left. I mean, if I don't want to, crown Denver with getting the playoff seed, and then maybe I don't know if the NFL schedule people will come in and influence it because, gosh, if Denver wins and the Dolphins lose, there's a lot less interesting games down the stretch for a lot of teams. But, man, Denver has a chance to really, put their foot on it. But they got to take care of business against a Browns team that has 4 extra days of preparation. So we'll see how that looks out. That's I know the Browns aren't very good, but they've beaten the Ravens, they've beaten the Steelers, and they still have Myles freaking Garrett. So that's the best defensive player in football.
And I'm glad we've got Mike Givens. That's absolutely one of the things I'm thankful for this week is for Broncos country, the Mile Huddle community. But the Browns will definitely come into the Denver Broncos game as decided underdogs. And speaking of underdogs, Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players, compete against other players by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money by just choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 220.5 passing yards this week? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
Download the Underdog app today and use code MHUDDLE to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHUDDLE to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Whew, man, coffee's kicking in. We're feeling good. It's a victory Monday. Denver sweeps the Raiders, their first win on the road against Oakland since that, I think, 2015 game when Chris Harris picked 6 there on the Denver on their road. So to the Super Bowl that season, really good feeling that one. And yeah, Miles Kendrick coming in here over on Facebook says their 3rd down conversions need some help. 6 of 15 could use some improvement. I mean, 6 of 15 isn't great, but again, we talked about it earlier. Denver's average yards to go on 3rd down was over 8. And when you talk about your average 3rd down conversion rate, Scott, I think league average is hovering around 50%. But when you're 8 plus, I think it drops to about 30%. So you're sitting about what you'd expect. I don't think the issue for the Broncos in this one was not necessarily 3rd down. It was what happened to get to 3rd down. You were not doing well. I have the advanced stats here for the Broncos. On your early downs, you were negative 0.04 EPA per play, which is looks like about the 40th percentile. You were 0.25 positive, 60th percentile on your third downs. That it mainly was Bo Nix playing great. So not very good on first and second down. I think the third down conversion rate is more of an outcome of what happened prior to third down.
And I think there will be adjustments as well, because when Bo Nix threw the ball, they were converting. What was it? A 1st and 20, and he goes for 20 yards.
Beautiful throw. I think that was
like yeah. What am I watching? Steve Spurrier's Gators in the 90s here? He's the only coach that ever worried me on like 3rd and 18. I'm like, well, hell, this is a first down. When they were getting stopped, it seemed like it was on those 3rd and mediums, quick passes. The Raiders would engage and then go up. They were batting passes down. And that's a relatively easy adjustment, even just a quick fake or move the pocket just a little bit to change your lane a little bit. That will be an adjustment that Sean Payton will see. They were like, we're not going to let Bo Nix play hot potato over the middle of the field, which is just and that's where they got their hands up quick. They batted down a lot of passes. It seemed like more than usual. But yeah, Miles, you'd like to see 6 of 15 isn't bad, but you'd definitely like to see them better. Appreciate you coming over on Facebook. Monica, great to see you. She says, hey, Nick and Scott, Bo Nix's fire is contagious. Breaking records against our divisional rivals is always a good win. Thanks for everything you both do. Well, thank you. We certainly appreciate your support. It's one of the reasons we're here. So thank you for helping to keep the lights on, helping keep Broncos for breakfast alive and well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was, again, not a perfect game from Bo Nix by any means, but you mentioned the 1st and 20 getting it done. Bo Nix, I believe, entering this game was one of the highest rates of 10 plus yards, air yards per attempt quarterback. A lot of, it's not necessarily Russell Wilson where it was, home run to behind the line of scrimmage dump down, but there was still a lot of, behind the line of scrimmage stuff overall, not so much intermediate, but he's been a lot better intermediate wise this season. And in this game, I was counting it up. Bo Nix has 12 passes for 10 plus yards down the field. And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 of 12 on those, but pretty good. You missed your 2 big shots. There was a 30 plus yarder to the left side to Troy Franklin. And the one that I thought could have been a touchdown to the right side that traveled about 36 air yards. But that's a pretty good day at the office overall. And again, your rush offense was absolutely horrific in this one, Scott. You have Javonte Williams, 8 rushes for -2 yards on the day, and that's including a long of 7, which is unacceptable. It's way too many negative runs in this one too. You had 6 rushes go for negative yardage in this one for -20 yards. That you can't have that, especially against a Raiders defense up front. Now, I know they're playing more of an aggressive style, but still, you hope that you can break through that line and then something can happen there. So,
yeah, Max may not have had a sack, but he had 3 tackles for loss. He was in the game for sure.
Yeah, just an unacceptable. This is 2 weeks in a row now where the rushing offense has been somewhat concerning. And luckily for Broncos country, maybe unfortunately, last offseason, we saw the Broncos. They made an aggressive pursuit of Josh Jacobs, who had 3 touchdowns yesterday. Denver was obviously not happy with their running back room. This offseason is not going to have the running backs who were free agents last year, Scott, was stupid. You had Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Jacobs, who feels like a forgotten man, but he's incredibly talented still. It's not going to be like that this season for free agency. Your number 1 guy might be like Najee Harris or something who's just, he's fine. But it's an incredible running back draft class.
I love the way you make fine sound like an expletive.
It's just, do I want to spend my money there?
I've told you the story before. It just reminds me of being 18 years old and my girlfriend said, I look fine. Yeah. This is what? We're going on 35 years ago and I still have reflexes from fine.
Yeah, we'll see. The rushing game in this one, again, this was a game where it was on the quarterback, the pass protection, and the wide receivers to dig themselves out because they were making it hard on themselves. And it was not a great Raiders defense by any means, especially the secondary. But not good enough. I think this is going to be a game where the film review for the offensive line and run blocking and the running backs is going to be harsh coming out of this one. And I know we've said it on here many times, really pulling for Javonte Williams coming off that knee injury and everything, but it's an unacceptable output
His
in this
days
game.
as a Bronco are numbered.
I mean, heck, after the game that we saw this week, I know that they cannot trust Julio McLaughlin in pass protection, and Audric Estime is still kind of figuring it out, and especially as a blocker and a receiver out of the backfield. But you cannot be that negative in the run game out there as we saw this week. So they're going to have to
Probably would
figure
have rather
something
had
out.
like Samaje Perine.
Oh, God. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, there was some money savings there versus Williams, but I think however many games are left, that's however many games are left for Javonte Williams as a Denver Bronco, because he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I don't really see any reason to bring him back from a production, what he brings to you from a Madden football point of view. I don't see any reason to bring him back.
Yeah.
Did you read Chris? You've been talking so long. I feel like you did.
I did. I don't think I did. Coach Chris coming in here, $20 says, "Morning, brothers. Sun shining, birds are chirping, and we beat the Raiders again. Swept the Raiders. Heck yeah. Could we have the Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year? Some concerning injuries. Allen and Moss, we need them back. OL struggled with pressure. I don't know if necessarily the offensive line struggled with pressure as much as the Raiders were super aggressive up front. And you saw the Broncos take advantage of that in the pass game. But I don't think, there wasn't a great game from the offensive line by any means. But again, I think that was more scheme than anything. As far as the Rookie of the Year, I think if you had to stack these right now, I think Rookie of the Year is the most probable for this team. Coach of the Year, we'll see. Sean Payton, if the Broncos get some, I think I'd list it Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, then Defensive Player of the Year, because Surtain needs more ball production and teams just simply aren't throwing him. And now you toss in the Riley Moss injury as well. I just don't know if there's going to be enough counting stats for a defensive back to win it this season. But
Nick's kind of freezing up on us here a little bit. I'll give him a second to see if it catches up, but I agree with him. So I'm going to, now he's back. I agree with Nick on this in the order of things right now. As you win, because let's take care of business at home against the Browns, move to what, 8-5? Rookie of the Year, I think if Bo is at worst right now level with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels got off to a really fast start, which biases people. They kind of already make up their minds. But there's enough time, and Bo's getting enough production for one thing. Wins is as important as anything. And then the hype that's coming around it. I think Bo right now, I would say he's obviously one of the favorites. I think Bo Nix right now is on pace to win Rookie of the Year is what I'm trying to say.
We have DraftKings and FanDuel odds coming in here. They're pretty close. They're updated as of today. And I think before today it was plus 300 for Jayden. And I just texted my wife to get off the streaming if she's doing that. So if my internet's blopping here, hopefully not anymore. But we have the odds. DraftKings has a minus 135 for Jayden Daniels to plus 110 for Bo Nix. FanDuel has minus 150 for Jayden Daniels, plus 125 for Bo Nix. I think it was plus 300 to plus minus 300 to plus 400 before this week. So the gap is closing. It's still Jayden Daniels award. Apparently, he had not a great game versus the Cowboys, but did have 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well.
They've lost 3 straight.
Yep, the gap is closing.
That's going to if a Dan Quinn team fizzles, I know that's going to surprise a lot of you.
A Cliff Kingsbury offense.
Yeah, if a Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury team fizzles down the stretch, and Bo and the Denver Broncos are getting better. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that's watching this team is improving. Across the board. But yes, some concerning injuries. You noticed when Moss went out too, Nick. You really did.
I thought that Wallace played admirably in this one. I think that it's the combination of McMillan and Wallace together that causes some concerns. And then also I didn't think the linebackers had the best game in this one. Also, shout out to Brandon Jones for going. I know he was pretty darn ill and had a good game. And shout out to the Broncos defense. Just some of the stats here, Scott. Jacob Custer coming in. How about those Broncos? How about them? Back on the winning ways here. Denver in this game has a defense wasn't incredible, Scott, but just some of the stats I thought were worth shouting out. 4 for 14 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. Not ideal, but that's great. Causing the Raiders to go 1 for 5 in the red zone and 1 for 3 in the goal to go. That's the difference in the game, right? It was a 1-score game for a lot of this one, so they didn't give up those They gave up one red zone touchdown, but that was pretty great from them. And Denver didn't have the best game in the red zone, the 2 for 4 in that situation, but making the Raiders go 1 for 5. I mean, them getting down to the red zone 5 times, that's kind of a blinking red light there. But overall, I thought the defense had a pretty good game. And this was a game too. I mean, the Raiders, you had the huge kickoff return. You had the fake punt that resulted in big yards as well. Those are the things when it's like, a team that's much worse is going to win.
All the stops.
Yeah, they're hitting them.
Like I said, that's when they were playing for fun.
Yeah.
You know, when you said they didn't quit. Well, part of that's on the coaching staff. Let's go out and have some fun. We're going to fake punts. We're going to blitz their freaking eyes out. And again, keeping your guys engaged. It's not easy on a team that's lost that many games. So you got the best shot from the Raiders and won. Yeah. And one, ended up being fairly comfortably a 10-point game.
Troy says, morning, fellas. Broncos defense. Who is the other player? The non-quarterback who was getting Rookie of the Year talk, Scott?
Bowers.
What did Bowers do in this game? Not a heck of a lot.
38.
10 targets. So that's a good volume, but only 4 receptions for 38 yards. Shout out to Surtain. Shout out to Jones. Shout out to the linebackers. They schemed out Bowers, and they said, this guy's not going to beat us. 4 for 10, that's not very good. So the great game for the Broncos. I know that everybody in the chat anecdotally loves to scream and pee and moan about Broncos versus tight ends, but statistically speaking, they've been pretty good in that regard. They've been not good against pass-catching running backs, but that's a different conversation. They did a good job in this one against Bowers.
And Troy says, I'll trade an offensive rookie of the year for a playoff spot. Jaden can have it even if Bo earned it. Long view here. Yeah. And again, I'll be fairly surprised if the Denver Broncos don't make the playoffs at this point. Going back to one of the things, I thought Gardner Minshew did a pretty good job of escaping pressure a lot.
Yeah.
But then didn't get anything out of it. That's what's surprising. Usually it's like, okay, here comes pressure. You didn't get him. That tends to happen. And here comes pressure. Minshew escaped it. Nada. So how good is the coverage on the backside? One, that's what you're hoping. Two, is that more of a concern against a better quarterback? With better offensive weapons out there when you're not getting home? Could this, because we said at the beginning of the year, this is a high risk, high reward type of defense. When you're blitzing on 43%, it's live by the sword, die by the sword, but you've been living. Your coverage has been so good on the backside. As you play a higher caliber of team with better offensive skill position players, could that come back to bite you? Yes, it could, but I was really impressed with how little Minshew was able to get when he escaped pressure.
Yeah, I think we did see we've seen it already, Scott. Easy for me to say. Versus the Chiefs, even though they didn't put up a lot of points, I mean, it was a lot of 3rd and longs, improbable plays that Mahomes somehow escapes a sack and either gets the ball away, and then Lamar Jackson as well. So we have seen it against some of those higher caliber quarterbacks. Granted, that might be 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL doing that. But yeah, it's a defense has some work to do in this one. It wasn't a perfect game by them by any means, but it was great to see them get back on the takeaway train. Finally, a strip sack, Scott, and shout out to Nick Benito getting to 10 sacks, the first Bronco defensive player to reach 10 sacks since 2018, when I believe Chubb and Von Miller both reached 10 double digits that season. So Benito's been great this season and a very good speed rusher and a closer for the Broncos. He's your fastball, Brad Lidge, before Albert Pujols destroyed him mentally, closer coming in here. So David Youngkin coming in. Do you guys think the first meeting between these two teams, Raiders wanted to put more pressure on Bo? I don't know what's going on exactly with the Raiders there. I think they knew that they couldn't just sit back and let Bo Nix pick them apart. And also, we'll have a chance maybe to talk about this at some point, but like Bo Nix playing great football, right? And this is just me being nitpicky right now. But if you look at his stats, he's been one of the bottom 10 quarterbacks in the NFL against pressure. Now that is, I haven't dug through like what it looks like after, I think from the Carolina game, he's been a different quarterback. So Carolina on, I don't know if it looks different, but his numbers kept clean versus under pressure. He's been bottom 10 under pressure. So he's not been terrible against the blitz, per se. That's a different thing than under pressure.
Right.
But
you can hit a hot route against the blitz. Those are a lot of beating the blitz is up here. And for those of you listening, I'm tapping on my head, is the pre-snap reads.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just like quarterbacks, if you know a blitz is coming, you want to throw to the vacated area where the blitz came from. So if it's like a nickel blitz, guess where somebody's going to be open, where that nickel player came from. So it's, filling the blitz there. But yeah, thank you so much, David. Yeah, we'll get into the data at some point. That's one area that Bo does need to get a little bit better in, but we're nitpicking. And I would have to, sit down and spend a few hours to like go through the game samples versus the whole sample, because he's a different quarterback than he was the first 2 weeks, the first 4 weeks, the first 8 weeks. And Denver does not win this game if you have Bo Nix in the first quarter of the season. They're
calling a different game for him. It's amazing how much things open up. It's like going back to David about the pressure. What did you have when they were blitzing the lights out? You had one-on-one coverage on the outside. So he was automatically throwing nice little fade routes. Okay, well, the first couple were incomplete. They weren't all incomplete. You take 3 swings on a go fade route, one-on-one coverage with Cortland Sutton, I'm going to have a 40-yard play or a touchdown or 2. Yeah. And it's just, I go first, second down, third down. I say 3 because that's a series. You do that to me 3 times, I'm going to move the ball. And the first 2 I think missed, and then the third one hits. Those are pre-snap reads. Those are okay. I got one-on-one coverage. They're bringing the house. I'm just going to put it up there and let my guy Micah play. I got Devon Fele, who had a very good game as well, by the way.
Yeah,
outside, gotcha. And I got Cortland Sutton outside. My guy's going to beat your guy.
Yeah,
give absolutely. Him a chance. Good morning, Michael. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. And then we've got this guy coming in. The energy powering the Empower Field is Naj Altaf. Good morning, Naj. Says, hey, brothers, the screen game was off. The blocking scheme on first down runs was off, but we won. This was a grit game, a game where our Broncos teams in recent years would lose, but this team is built different. Love it. And again, the Raiders threw so many bodies on the first couple of series at the line of scrimmage that it was just an adjustment that needed to be made, Naj. I mean, you're not running against 9 guys coming at you they're basically in punt block defense. It was so different than what you saw the week before, where you might see 2 guys in the box. So it was tough to run against, and your game plan had to adjust, and they did, and the Broncos did.
Yeah, they did. Maybe I'd like, a draw in there for once, or maybe a screen to the running back where
middle screen would be nice.
Middle screen, exactly. That's what I was, because he had the outside ones. And this was not, if you look at the passing chart, not a great game, middle of the field wise passing for just there's not a lot of volume there. So we will see how that evolves from this team. Obviously, luckily for the Broncos, I think probably the thing that can change this offense the most is adding a running back, and you're going to have plenty of options to add running back to this team this offseason. So that's a positive. But yeah, they got to figure out the run game, no doubt. I think this is going to be one where watching the tape with the old ball coach and Zach Strief and the running backs coach and everything is going to be a rough one, because that was an unacceptable output. But they also got to find options there. I will say, shout out again, Marvin Mims usage, Scott, in the backfield. He had not a great day running the football, but he did have a positive run, and you got to at least show that you will run with Mims if he's lined up at tailback. Just put it on tape even, and they did in this one. But the game sealing, I think it was a touchdown, might have even just been a field goal, but one of the game sealing plays was Mims out of the backfield as a linebacker trying to keep up with him, and no way looked like he was in quicksand against Mims. Easy completion, big play.
You know who that reminded me of on defense was, we talk about one-trick pony. Is Nick Bonito a one-trick pony? Yeah, well, that trick's pretty good. It's blown by a guy with pure speed and sacking the quarterback. Bonito's better than that now, so I'm exaggerating to make a point. The point is Mims is a little bit of a one-trick pony right now. If I can get him in space, I can do something. It's just hard to get him in space. But if you miss an assignment and Marvin Mims has the ball in his hands, my God, are you going to pay?
Yeah.
Because he's got the explosiveness. He's got the tools that are going to really, really hurt you. And the more, and you've said this before, Nick, the more I have to focus on making sure he doesn't get outside, I'm taken away from somewhere else.
Yep. And I want to give a shout out to the Raiders linebacker who Honestly, Scott, I don't like to say anything. It's easy to say good things about the Raiders when you're beating them, but their linebacker, Spillane, I believe is his name.
He made a hell of a play.
Oh, Robert Spillane. Yeah, impressive player. He was the one who got beat on that one, Scott, but he's had a heck of a season. He's a very good player out there. So
I think it was on an earlier screen where he ducked underneath and came under. I was like, oh my God, what a play, where he beat like 3 blockers by levitating horizontally across and getting the legs of the runner. What a play that was. That one, you're right. And again, to your point, he's a linebacker in coverage. He can't cover Marvin Mims out of the backfield. And to your point again, well, that's why he's kind of a mismatch back there. If I can get him in passing situations, and I know I have that one.
You just have to be able
JR,
to
I like this comment from JR coming over on Facebook. He said, "Did you see how hyped Sean was after the game? He's clearly having fun, and that's a plus for the Broncos as well." Yeah, it was a fist pumping F yeah type of Sean Payton coming off, and I don't know. I mean, you want to win, you want to beat the Raiders. He's done that, been there, done that. I think part of it, honestly, was we didn't play our best and we won. We're good. You know, he talked about early in the press conference, the elite teams, he goes, and we're not there yet, but the elite teams are the ones they're probably on for maybe 13 of the 17 games. And the other 4, they usually still find a way to win. Those are the elite teams. Nick and I talk baseball. We do cross-sport references all the time. Good pitchers can win when they don't have their best stuff. That's when you've got an elite pitcher. This was not the Broncos' best game. This was one of the better games from the Raiders. They were up. They hit some stuff that they won't hit every time, including fake punts. Fake punts. And you still beat them. And you still beat them by 10 in their house. This is a good football team, Nick.
Yeah, different ways
and that's
to win.
That's exciting if you're the coach.
Yeah. You have margin. This is a game against this opponent. You had margin for error. That was that shown in this one. And yeah, I see the comments in here too. Troy coming in says, can't watch, but want to support. Thank you both. Thank you, Troy. Shout out to you. One of the nicer guys out there. So hope you're doing well. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And always appreciate you coming in and saying hello on this Victory Monday. You know, these days have been hard to come by since I've been covering this team, Scott. Of course, I cover starting 2016. And guess what? We've had one winning season covering the Broncos since then, which was 2016. So it's been a lot of bad football without a lot of hope, right? And right now, there's definitely, it's not just hope, right? You and I are both like data-driven, analytical people. They're showing it on the field. There's reason for hope. It's concrete, right? Show your work. Broncos are showing your work right now, and they're getting it done.
It's sustainable. Is this thing. It's a foundation. Good defense. We can add to it, and that's the thing. Is it's like, okay, well, we're not a good defense because Pat Surtain is intercepting 15 a game, and I've got Lawrence Taylor coming off the edge. Oh no, if Lawrence Taylor gets hurt, we're done. It's schematic. It's plug and play. It's guys going down and stepping up, and you'll have the chance to upgrade personnel in this offseason. It's a foundation, and part of it's you built the trenches, and you went and got a mistake-free quarterback. Those are sustainable assets to build the foundation of a team that you can then continue to build on. Where last year was fluky. You're just like, oh, we went on this winning streak where every bounced ball went our way for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Well, what happens when we don't get 4 turnovers in a game? Well, you lose. you lose that game. So this is sustainable, and it's improve uponable. And I mentioned this the other day, Nick. We've compared the stages of rebuild to the Atlanta Falcons, and I watched Arthur Smith do a really good coaching job in 2022 to get 7 wins out of a team with $100 million in dead cap number and 5 NFL players on the roster. And he eked out 7 wins from that team. I was like, that was a hell of a job. Now, what happens when you've got better players, more money, more expectations, more ego? What happens? Well, he fell flat on his face. Sean Payton, we already know, won't do that. He knows how to handle success. He knows how to handle the prima donnas. He knows how to take the next step with this team. He's already done it. He's been there.
and he'll tell you about it. No, he might be egotistical, but he's proven it. And he's
You got the track record. I
Yep.
said it when you were hiring him. This isn't the guy that most people who aren't Broncos fans want to go play golf with.
Yeah, nah, he's done a great job here in Denver. And I just want to get back to it. You talked about a mistake-free quarterback. I think sometimes that comes with a negative connotation. I think of the false positive that was the 2019 rookie year Drew Lock, where it's like, okay, he's protecting the football, but every single throw, Scott, is like the check down where there's absolutely no aggression to it. At any point there's aggression. It's like, oh my God, there's 3 defenders there. It's in harm's way. It was kind of like that with Bo Nix the first 2 starts, where like the ball's in harm's way anytime it was beyond 10 air yards, where but again, that was just the first 2 starts. I'm not holding that against him. He's just kind of figuring out what works and doesn't. Right now, it's relatively mistake throws. In this one, I'll be curious. That PFF hasn't graded the game yet, but I'd be curious to see the big time throws to the turnover-worthy plays. But it's protecting the football while also being calculated aggression. And it's not just the schemed up aggression either, right, Scott? It's not like we're hitting these play actions here and we have 2 guys on the route and this is going to be a shot no matter what. These are multiple guys in the route, and he is finding and delivering catchable footballs down the field. Vele, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, a lot of Lord knows what at wide receiver out there besides Cortland Sutton. But it is pretty awesome to see him to come into his own. Now, should we crown Bo Nix?
Real quick, Nick, I went and looked this up one time because the Drew Lock stuff was just all the talk about this, and we didn't give this guy a chance. Roll his eyes, the finish, all this stuff. The defenses that he played against in that run, the
terrible.
pass defense on those teams was 29th, 8th. That was Kansas City. They lost 23-3.
Yeah.
32nd and 25th. Those were the pass defenses that he went against in that magical run.
Yeah. Small sample size,
False
not really
positives.
Yeah. This is why you want to have a more robust sample. And my point also, Scott, is we had Sean Payton on the conference call last Wednesday saying, don't measure Bo Nix for a gold jacket just yet. Broncos country, I'm not here to, if you want to be measuring up and is the next John Elway, then God bless you. But I also would push a little bit of cautiousness out there because you think we have all the answers and we know everything that's going to happen. But just how good was CJ Stroud last year compared to this season, right? It's right now, Bo Nix is on this line. This is just it won't always be like this. There'll be a plateau. There's going to be a drop. What's the trend? Trend is looking up, but just like right now, I'm kind of like pulling back the reins a bit. There's going to be a game where he has some WTF moments, strip sacks, some balls. Like, what are you doing there? Just because he has that one bad game doesn't mean we need to overreact the other way as well, right? It's the overall sample. He belongs. Now, is he going to be a guy who can go drive for drive, matching in a true drop back pass game against Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, these offenses that are functioning crazy high efficiency right now with not only the quarterback, but the weapons as well? We'll see. I think there's still some questions about like if he can be elite in that true drop back sense. But when you have Sean Payton, the team building that you have right now, it doesn't have to be that right now, Scott. Like, let's say he's just a system quarterback as a rookie, first or second year guy. Oh, all he is rookie contract Dak Prescott, rookie contract Brock Purdy. Hell yeah. God, that sounds so good. We have that with Sean Payton and the offensive line pass protection that we've had and all this cap space that's coming to us this season where we can actually build around this. And you're telling me like that's a negative? I'm not worried about if he can win the drop back, superstar contract stuff for another 4 years. Where are we at? Right. We might not even be here in 4 years, Scott. So right now, this is more than good enough. Oh, he's just a system quarterback. Give me whatever you want to call him. I don't care. It's hyper efficient. It's improving. And there is so much to be optimistic about. And you're like, what would Bo Nix look like if you swapped him and Caleb Williams? I don't know. I don't care. We have Bo Nix paired with Sean Payton. It's a great matchup. And there's so much to be optimistic for Bo Nix and the direction of this team that you can keep your hypotheticals until we're talking Bo Nix contract years down the line with a much more robust sample size.
Terry's ready to talk the nowish.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Terry. Thanks for coming over and joining us over on Broncos for Breakfast. This morning, Nick and Scott, what is the Broncos ceiling? I think you could. This is a playoff team. I'm convinced on that. Unfortunately, they won't be able to get a higher seed because they'll go in as a wild card. Right now, they'd be matched up against the Buffalo Bills. Can they beat the Buffalo Bills? Yes, they can. Would I think that this team right now could go on the road and beat the Buffalo Bills? I would say no. Now, you hope that Josh Allen has one of his Josh Allen bad performances, and then you can beat them. But I would think the ceiling would be an upset in the first round, and you can't sustain that 2 weeks in a row. You can't talk about, I'm going to pull off a monster upset 2 weeks in a row. So ceiling, first round upset in the playoffs, go out in the second round.
Yeah.
Floor, make the playoffs and you lose to the number 2 seed in a tight competitive game. That's the floor. So right now they're not far apart for me because, again, this is right now a very consistent team. We know what we've got with the Denver Broncos because they've got that base, that foundation, those halves. What they lack right now is skill players on offense that can make the difference against the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Broncos. I mean, gosh, with the defense, the way they play and the ball control stuff on offense, you have a chance to beat anybody. Now, can you string together those games?
Right.
You have some, I mean, the AFC is just unbelievable at quarterback, Scott. So, I mean, the ceiling, if you get in the playoffs, is literally the Super Bowl. I mean, it is. The probability of that, not super high. I think your odds would be most likely losing that first round. But
I think you'd go on the road to Buffalo and then go on the road to Kansas City. It'd be, yeah. Can you win one of those? Yeah. Can you win both of them? Yeah, theoretically. But
yeah,
is it likely that you're going to go on the road and win back-to-back games in the playoffs at Buffalo, Kansas City? No. The percentages would be very, 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 very low. If anybody doing that.
And the question would be, you don't have a run game right now that you can lean on, running back run game. They have not really utilized Bo Nix as a designed runner, but he's gotten so much better, Scott, at using his athleticism to extend plays versus just, add on as a runner. Like he's looking to pass off of that. So the growth there has been tremendous. My other thing here is it was a good game in that regard versus Raiders, but if Denver is going to go on the road and win some football games and Bo Nix isn't playing like unconscious demigod level, which is an unfair ask and expectation for anybody to do that, let alone a rookie quarterback in their first playoff action. But the Denver Broncos need to start taking the ball away consistently at a higher clip. They've been pretty middle of the pack this season as far as takeaway goes, and takeaways are just so valuable, Scott. I was messing with the RBSDM graphics last night before bed, and that Denver defense, they're number 3 in the NFL this season in EPA per play, which is great considering that terrible Ravens game, right? That's a outlier. That was one of the worst games of any defense this season. But when you exclude turnovers, because turnovers are a little bit more volatile, a little bit more chaos, Denver has the number 1 defense in the NFL, which to me means there's meat on the bone as far as what Denver can do. So long way to get here. Can Denver make a run in the playoffs? Absolutely. But it would probably need to be paired with a pretty chaotic outlier performance from the defense where you're taking the ball away early and then dictating from there. But this is why you play the games, right? That could happen. So some questions there, no doubt. And maybe it's all these Iowa winters. Somebody in here saying Nick's a string guy. Nick's the half glass empty kind of guy. I don't know if I am. I'm just saying that I'm really happy with the now, and these hypothetical questions about Bo Nix I don't really care. He's operating the system at a high level, and the bigger questions, we can ask them when the time comes, but there's no reason to have to answer them right now. There's no, unless you're sitting around the bar, right, and drinking with some buddies or whatever. But right now, this is
and I'm definitely
more than good enough.
Yeah, and I'm definitely a cynic. So remember that when when I'm picking games, I'm always a cynic. Jason coming in, just showing love and support. Thank you, sir. Go Broncos. Who would have thought we'd be 7-5 at the start of the season and thinking playoffs? Obviously not us. No. And this is about where I expected the offense to be at this point. But again, it's the defense that has just blown my mind. I had just no inkling that you'd have a top 2, top 3 defense. Just that never even crossed the realm of possibility. And that's the difference between we're 5-6, 5-7, and 7-5. It's a 4-game swing. Is this defense right now? And that for me is the big difference. Cameron says, any good free agent backs? Nick named a couple, and there will be more based on some cuts and stuff. Williams is bad. We need to cut him. You won't have to cut him, Cameron. He'll run out of contract this year. I don't think he'll be back. However many games left the Denver Broncos have, that's how many games you'll have left of Javonte Williams on any kind of money at all, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a really good free agency running back class. And you're talking about like some of the top guys are third contract running backs, which, that's you're selling a car with a check engine light on. That's permanently on at that point. You got James Conner is having a great season with Arizona, but he's going to be 30 years old. Aaron Jones has been meh for the Vikings. Najee Harris is interesting, but like, is he just kind of redundant to estimate out there? You got Nick Chubb, who's going to be 29, but he's had so many injuries out there. Alex Madison's been a know-nothing for the Raiders. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins out there. It is at this point, it's not a very good running back free agency class, but running backs are constantly cut as well. We don't know what the market will be just yet.
Jump the queue on Tyler Algier before he's a free agent and send the Falcons a day 2 pick.
I don't think there's no reason to send anybody any day 2 picks for running backs this season because this is an unbelievable running back.
Get yours in the draft. Use a day 2 pick on your own.
Yeah, heck, then use a 6th-round pick on one as well. There's going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if there's 10 running backs drafted day 2 this season. I think only Genties goes round 1 from Boise State. But after that, it is going to be an unbelievable smorgasbord of running backs coming off the board. I know we see people talking about tight end as well. Tight ends up there. This is a good tight end class too. Maybe Denver will use that 1st-round pick on a tight end and go running back day 2. We'll see. I'm going to be an advocate on the defensive front this draft cycle. Why would you do that, Nick? Look how good the defensive front is. Exactly. I want to keep this up. And I have the very much a Boy Scout mentality towards the defensive line with building a fire.
Free agent. DJ Jones is a free agent, and, Owazarike got that sack, but that was a cleanup sack. That was made through pressure up the middle. Yeah. Forces Minshew up in the pocket, and then the guy that was getting blocked comes horizontally and makes a sack.
Yeah.
Like, okay, nice. Those are the ones where it's like, oh, he got the sack. Yeah, but he's not the one that made the play.
No, absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure that was Jones. I think
it was Jones.
Either Jones or Roach. They've both been playing well.
Yeah, but as far as I always say it on here, how do you keep a fire going, right? To build a good fire, you don't just let it die and then have to completely start from scratch again. You toss another log on. So that's kind of how I am on the defensive line as well. Maybe, Scott, I'm getting a little bit.
The coals of the foundation. Once you got those hot coals, you can burn a log in a hurry.
Yep, and maybe I'm a little psychotic because I've had to watch the Falcons as well this season, so I'm scared to death of what that product looks like when you can't get after the passer.
If you're the Falcons, you would draft 4 defensive linemen and then go to a 2-man front.
Brilliant. D Porter, $9.99.
And you make half your rookies inactive on game day because you're not playing a scheme that would use your rookies. It's insanity, dude. Yeah, D Porter, we know what that D stands for because he tells us. Good morning, MHH. Great win yesterday. Nick, I think your pops and I have the same name. Darren, not sure about the same spelling, but regardless, it's worth a 10 spot. We'll certainly appreciate that. I mentioned my middle name's Darren. No, just kidding. My middle name's actually Scott. So good morning to you and appreciate the support of the show, Darren.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you coming in. And I see that we already got a lot of draft talk in here, guys. Scott and I are going to be psychotic when it comes to the draft season. We'll be doing plenty of simulations. Right now, everybody's mocking the Broncos wide receivers round 1. We got to get through free agency first before that. But, we keep talking about it on here. The singular domino is Garrett Bowles. What happens with Garrett Bowles changes the entirety of the offseason. So we'll see what happens there. Jason Bonney coming in says, 2 of the next 3 games are primetime standalone games. Time to show the world we are here to stay. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be big time. I'm a little bit peeved that the Browns get an extra 4 days to prepare for this one because if Denver wins this Browns game, it's going to be pretty darn hard even though the last 4 games will be tough, or 3 games will be tough for Denver. It's going to be hard for anybody to close the gap on them, but 4 games because it'll be Colts, Chargers. Bye. You have the bye, but yeah, you still have 4 games. So it's Colts, Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs after the Browns. But no, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Denver controls their own destiny. I will say that I don't Miami's schedule is not super hard. We really need them to lose Thursday night and Thanksgiving. But yeah, plenty of Denver controls their own destiny, and Colts losing this last game. You still play the Colts and the Bengals. Got work to do, but Denver's in a pretty good spot. And I know that out of the playoff simulators, Scott, the Athletic New York Times one has constantly been the most negative towards the Broncos' chances. And after this win, they have the Broncos all the way up to a 60% chance of making the playoffs. They still believe in the Dolphins. 32% there for the Dolphins, where the NFL.com has the Dolphins
chance
at.
for me that they make the playoffs.
What was that?
It's like a 90% chance to me that the Broncos make the playoffs. I'm like, I will be very, very surprised if the Denver Broncos do not make the playoffs.
NFL.com has them at 73% chance currently. Dolphins at 15, Colts at 20, Bengals at 13. So, I mean, they're highly probable, but still got work to do, right? 5 games to go. A lot can change. Cameron coming in says, favorite podcast. Man, we missed Zach Allen in this game. Benito's been awesome. If I'd see some free agent back right now, that could give us a spark. Yeah, I don't think you're probably not a lot of guys available out there that could spark this team. I think your room is your room. But what we saw from the running backs in this game was unacceptable. We had some good plays from Jaleel McLaughlin, but terrible. I mean, this might have been the worst game I can remember from a non-fumble game from Javonte Williams. It was horrific out there for him. Even like in the pass game, not good. So, yeah, they need to figure out something. Maybe you'll see a shift to Audric Estime. I'm going to be curious to see what they do against the Browns. Browns are a tough defense still.
Coming in, we were very concerned about the skill position players. Wide receivers, I think, have been a pleasant surprise.
Yep.
Tight end and running back have been poor. Fair?
Yeah. Yep. Luckily, those are 2 areas you can address this offseason, and wide receiver cost a bleep ton to get better. If I had my druthers, I'd bring back Garrett Bowles and then sign Chris Godwin this offseason and use the draft at running back and tight end, but we'll see. But yeah, we got to wrap on it up here, Scott. We've been here for a bit. I wish we could have gotten to more non-super chat folks, but if you get that super chat, we're going to get to you. So appreciate everybody coming in, supporting the show. It's a good Monday morning. And I guess I'll kind of make one little quick state of the nation.
We're not done. Cameron, he says, favorite podcast. Man, we missed Zach Allen this game. But it's nice to be able to still squash people without your best player. He might be the most impactful player, depending on how you talk about. We're able to play defense this way because we've got Pat Surtain on the backside. That's kind of an indirect impact where guys up front, you see them, what they do every single play. But Benito has been awesome. Yes, he has. I'd see if there's a free agent back right now that could give a spark. Hell, who's on the practice squad somewhere that can play? It's worth taking a look. I agree with you. Appreciate you, Cameron. Money Moore coming in. Good to see you, Money. Says, can anything be done to fix the batted balls issue? We talked about this just a little bit, that there will be adjustments made where on 3rd and medium, it was slant routes, hot routes, middle, and the Raiders basically said, you're not going to get that. If I'm engaged, I'm going up. And you can roll the pocket just a little bit. You can even do a quick pump fake, get them up in the air, and then throw it on their way down. There's little things you can do to get that, and I expect that to be addressed because that's fixable. It is fixable, but that was an issue. They're like, we're not giving up the quick pass over the middle. If we're engaged, we're going high, and it worked. It worked, and that was a lot of the 3rd down stops. It felt like, Nick.
Pump draw. I mean, the classic of Peyton Manning, right? That quick pump, get them in the air, and then hand it off, and you have I think there needs to be something needs to happen with the run game. It's not been good enough. It's not reasonable or fair to ask Bo Nix to constantly play on the high wire like he had to in this game with 3rd and plus constantly. So got to figure out something with the run game. Michael Ronquillo, great show today. Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Yeah, go Bo Broncos. Go you guys. Absolutely killed it today. So many super chats. Obviously, I think I can finally, I will say, Scott, now granted, there's going to be ebbs and flows like we talked about on that trend line, but Bo Nix for the next 5 years is your Denver Broncos starting quarterback. I know that's, hard to say for me after even, 10 games now, 12 games, but I've seen enough where for the rookie contract with this pairing with Sean Payton, you're cooking right now. So what does it look like? What's the ceiling? We're going to find out over time, but with this combination of Peyton, the scheme fit, and Bo Nix's leadership, we're starting to see there's still some technical stuff with his feet where the accuracy can be off, but he's not just He doesn't look erratic in the pocket anymore. There's much more consistency with the accuracy. And he's protecting, like I said earlier, he's protecting the football while still pushing the ball, right? So it is awesome to see. And this Broncos team, as long as Bo Nix is on his rookie contract, because that's all that we really need to care about right now, right? Like, are we going to make him the top paid quarterback in the NFL when he's up? I don't know. We still have 4 seasons to get there. But for this window right now, this is going to be an incredibly competitive team. And I am so excited to be a part of this with you guys because, I mean, I know that Broncos had a very good run from 83 to 2015, right? So we've been spoiled in that. But the last decade has been tough. This is a team that's going to be formidable. You need to hit well in the offseason, right? We're not done here. But, man, it feels so good to have your quarterback. Is he going to be a perennial top 5 guy? I don't know, right? That's a high bar. But I think we're definitely pushing, no doubt, I think top 20 yearly, which on a rookie contract is incredible. And I think that you could even be talking top 10, which, again, on a rookie contract, taking advantage of that with this window is unbelievable. So he doesn't have to be Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson to be a Super Bowl contending quarterback in this system on this contract. So really excited about that. I know I was a Bo Nix wait and see kind of guy with that Oregon offense and his age and everything. But I think they talked about it last night on the broadcast. Scott, his arm looks better, and he looks awesome. This pairing is magical, and I'm not so attached to anchor bias where I'm looking for every single thing to discredit him. I just wanted a more robust sample size. I've seen enough now, anecdotally, teammates talking about him, the tape. It's all great, and I think that sky's the limit for these next 5 years for the Broncos.
Well, I'm just looking forward to talking football games in January instead of talking all draft and free agency. That's the start for me. But Nick, why don't you go ahead and get us out of here? We've had a great evening, morning. Thank you so much. And remember, the boys will be back on the Aftermath MHH podcast tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate everybody, man. It feels good to be 7-5. Denver now 2 games over their projected, or 1.5 over their projected win total, and have a big game this upcoming Monday night against a pesky Cleveland Browns team. So pretty incredible to see what happens in that one. Appreciate everyone coming in today. Oh my gosh. So many super chats to say hello to. Perry West, Mark Schrader, Boogmeister, Miles Kendrick, Mike Gibbons, $49.99. God bless you, Mike. Monica coming in. Always great to see you. Thank you so much. Coach Chris, Jacob Custer, Troy Morris, of course, David Youngkin, Michael Ronquillo a few times, Naj, our guy. We love you. JP Capron coming in here. Troy Boer, Terry Murray, Jason Kopp, Cameron Wadman, Darren Porter, of course, Jason Bonney, Money Moore. I think we got everybody well. Perry West again. Oh, both of us, Scott. There we go. Thanks so much for the show. Thank you guys for coming in and supporting us. We really do appreciate that. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scott Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, we're over at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Sweep the Raiders. Denver's got a chance to really, stamp things to get to, if you're sitting there at 8-5 with where the state of the AFC is, you got a great chance. So everyone, we'll see you again. I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your Victory Monday. Feels good to be in this spot. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.